Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman. Max, what's up?
Yeah, man, just celebrating the day Jesus came back. That's today, right?
Easter Monday, man. We're now a religious podcast. Let's take a moment and just appreciate. Shane, we're also here with you, our pop culture aficionado.
I'm back too.
Our last podcast we recorded just before we went to last proper podcast we recorded just before we left for Vancouver and the JUNOs, and then we did a bonus one which we encourage you to go listen to because we recorded that right in the middle in the heart of everything before obviously the big award that you guys were nominated for, and now we are back and it's been a bit of time. We're doing another morning recording. Actually, this is becoming more frequent for us.
Kind of into it. It's like it's practicing for our morning show.
That's true. My voice is always a little more hoarse in the morning because I usually don't talk till about 11 a.m.
Yeah, it's kind of
I get brain fog for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not the same.
Hey, speaking of Jesus, I just watched the first 3 episodes of Waco.
David Koresh?
Yeah, David Koresh. It's the David Koresh story. Do you know this one? You know the cult?
Is this the one like the sex cult?
No. Well, there was sex. Basically, you're thinking of Wild Wild Country, which is on Netflix right now.
You haven't seen that?
No.
Oh,
Is it good?
Oh, it's the best.
So for our listeners, David Koresh was this sort of charismatic, like all of these cults, he's a charismatic leader that people followed, and he had a big compound in Waco, Texas, and eventually the government had to basically bombard this compound, and it became like a shootout.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I
a lot
know
of people
this one.
died.
It was like a big deal in the 90s.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny getting to know his character a little bit. Taylor Kitsch from Friday Night Lights, like the hunky guy in that show.
He plays Koresh. And you kind of come to like Koresh. Well, a lot of people did, clearly.
Well, yeah. I think you kind of have a soft spot for him. But his move was, he's like, because there's like married couples that live on the compound, and his move was like, sex is bad. No one should be having sex. Except for me. I'll bear the burden of that. And so he got to have sex with all the guys' wives.
Yeah.
Wow.
And had their children too. And he also got to be the lead singer of the band. He had a band like on the compound.
Wow.
Was
and
it
he
any
got
good?
To be, they're okay. They played My Sharona, according to the TV show. And he got to be the leader of this cult.
Yeah.
The big 3, as they say. Sleeping with everyone's wives, lead singer of a band, leader of a cult.
Is that a thing? The big 3?
Yeah.
Maybe in Max's diaries as a teenager.
It's my big 3.
Well, the thing is, if you become the lead singer of a band, you usually can get to do the other 2
Right.
anyway. Like that, you just do that one first, and then you get the other 2.
Yeah. So anyway, I recommend the show. It's really good so far. The other piece of news that happened to me this morning was about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago, Manager Ash sent me a commercial for this company called Bombas, and they make socks.
Okay.
And the commercial is really like well done. And there's a celebrity appearance by Zac Efron in it. And basically, it started as a little startup with this idea of, I guess, homeless people don't have socks. That's like the one piece of clothing that they have a hard time getting. So they use the Tom's model. So for every pair of socks that you buy, they give it to a homeless shelter or people that need socks. So I was really taken by the ad. It's like really well done. I highly recommend everybody to check out the ad. And Zac Efron makes like a celebrity appearance and like he's just eating. So it's like really funny. So anyway, I bought 2 pairs of socks. And like, I don't know, has that ever happened to you guys where you've
I
like
bought socks, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
No, but like you've seen a really good commercial. I've done that. No, where you've seen a commercial like online or somewhere and you're like, I need to buy this right now. Has that ever happened to you
Great
guys?
question. Nothing that jumps to mind.
Because normally I don't get...
Maybe a Snuggie. I got a Snuggie as a gift for somebody once as a joke.
Okay, but it wasn't because the commercial was
Well,
that
you
good?
saw the trailer during the Super Bowl that was like,
Oh.
watch this film right
Great point.
now.
That film, Cloverfield,
Yeah.
whatever, the latest one, where I saw basically I was watching the Super Bowl, and they had a trailer for that Cloverfield movie that just came out on Netflix, and they were like available after the Super Bowl. And I was so blown away because I was like, once the trailer came on, I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was already excited about another Cloverfield movie coming out. And then at the end of the trailer, when they said available on Netflix after the Super Bowl, my mind was blown because I was like, whoa, the future's now. Like if you told young Mike that one day he would see a trailer on his like TV for a movie that he was interested in, and it was going to be available after, like in an hour. I was like, this is awesome. So I'm going to stay up and watch it just because I'm so excited about this advertising sort of initiative. And it ended up being the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen.
Well, this is similar to my story too. Have you ever bought anything like just because like you were so impressed by the ad?
No, but I wanted to when I was young. When I see these ads for they're like life-size cars for kids. They're like,
Oh yeah.
and I always wanted one of those like Jeeps that I could drive around in. It was like my dream to drive one of those. And then I never got it as a kid. And I've always been afraid of driving ever since. I was like, I hate driving now. I hate cars.
Because you didn't get the gift.
And I'm convinced if Instagram existed at the time when my parents were younger, I would have had the car. Because they'd be like, it's so cute to have him in that car. And then they'd get all the likes from the photo and the Insta stories.
That is a hilarious rethinking of something.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that angle.
Well, it's like 90% of baby clothes industry is based on Instagram. It's like you slap on the kids saying like Raptors is home or whatever t-shirt, and then you get 1,000 likes.
The most popular seller. Raptors is home.
Or like We the North or whatever. You know what I mean?
Toronto versus everybody or whatever.
Exactly.
So these socks.
So anyway, the socks arrived. I forgot that I'd ordered them, and then they arrived, and I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, the socks are also in the commercial. They're like, we use the best technology. They talk about the technology in the socks for like 3 of the 5 minutes. So I'm like
biodegradable or something.
Yeah, something like that. Words that I don't quite understand, like biodegradable. And I'm just like, wow, I'm so blown away. Like, anyway, the socks are just like dress socks. Like they're nothing. They don't feel any different. I almost prefer athletic socks. That's like my go-to. Like just like Hanes.
Of course, those are the best socks.
They're way more comfortable. And if I have one pet peeve about socks, is when if I'm wearing Doc Martens and they start to slide down.
Oh my God. That's everybody's pet peeve.
That's
the worst.
And it's happening to me on my left foot right now.
Fuck that.
So here's my question. Do I call it Bombas or whatever the fuck they're
I think
called?
that's what you're doing right now.
Just because it's for charity doesn't mean you can do a shit product.
It's like, is the problem
Live
me?
podcast aside.
We worked hard on that one, man.
Like, but then I started thinking, it's like, is the problem with me? Do I have weird ankles? Like, is my left leg weird? Like, I don't know.
This sock is actually causing you psychological damage
It
now.
really is.
You're starting to reflect on your. It's not your fault.
Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna. So do I send? They actually on the way here, I got an email saying review the sock.
Just send them a note saying your product's slipping.
There you go.
It's a double entendre.
I got it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's me and Bombas socks. I don't totally recommend them, but if you want to do something nice and spend $45 for 2 pairs of socks,
Man.
it's $15 a pair, and then with the shipping from America, it was $45, and that might even be USD.
That sucks.
And moving forward, I should just give a $30 bill. There's no such thing, but $30.
What I was going to say is instead of spending the money on the socks, just get like a $15 Tim Hortons gift card and give it to someone struggling.
That's what? That is the answer.
Yeah.
That is, I think, what I was looking for when I came to you with this problem.
Yeah.
That's what I got to do.
But I think the problem is that it's just socks is the problem for them, right?
Yeah.
Like they probably get a lot of like quarters and toonies and stuff. It's the fact that they don't have the proper sock work.
Yeah, maybe I just go to like Chinatown and get, because that's where my dad buys all of
Yeah.
his socks. That's where I got buy my socks. Great deals on socks.
Yeah,
in
just buy a
Chinatown.
bunch. That should be the new movement. People buy like a 3-pack of socks. Foot Locker always has a sale on socks.
Yeah.
true.
And you just buy that. It'd probably be $10 tops for 3.
Yeah.
And just go, hey, toss them to some homeless dude or woman.
I think we're onto something, guys.
That's the play.
That's the new charity movement that Michael
That's
Much is
good.
starting.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I gave a homeless woman $20 the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then she started following us.
Oh,
And it kind of backfired a little bit. We're like, oh, that's too much money.
Okay, so today is actually supposed to be the JUNO episode,
Sorry, I
guys.
really, hijacked that.
That's okay.
Okay.
We've got Bob Rock on the episode. He is a legendary Canadian producer. He's done countless bands that we will get into once we go talk to Bob Rock. But guys, we spent the weekend in Vancouver, all three of us, kind of separately in our own sort of ways. Shane, I saw you a couple times out with your co-director Mark. Max, obviously, I saw you when we would do interviews. But other than that, you're a busy boy on the weekend.
Yep.
But how was everybody's weekend? I guess our listeners have wanted to know, if they don't already know, what happened with the big award that you guys were all nominated for, the Video of the Year for Knocking at the Door.
Jane?
We did not win.
We lost. Our Kells were collectively 0 for 4 with their award nominations. But you know what though? And maybe it's easy for me to say because we've won some Junos already. But I didn't really care. I mean, was it? Did
You're
it
out
sting
of the
for
album
you?
cycle.
Yeah, out of the album cycle. This was going and getting to play was a big deal for us. How did it feel? Were you like? I know you're more competitive. I mean, I guess I'm kind of competitive too. But were you like, fuck?
Well, I did want to win just because it sounds cool to say I'm a Juno winner.
Yeah.
It still sounds cool to say Juno nominee. But yeah, I didn't start feeling weird until because Mark and I kind of were, it seemed like we were going to do your next music video. But then we lost the award. And then you called and you're like, yeah, this is going to somebody else. So I was like, I was like, if we had won, Mark, maybe we would have kept.
You know what? I was thinking about putting that in when I texted you guys about it. I was like, guys, if you had won.
Winners only.
I was literally going to put that in. And then I was like, no, that's not funny. But it had nothing to do with that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you get thoughts that aren't true, but you still think them.
And you think about like the world, like karma or whatever, like just like the mysterious forces in the air. You're like, if we had won the thing, then this would have led to that. When most of the time, those ideas are just like made up in your head.
Well, the award was, that award specifically was at the gala. So for people that attend the Junos, basically the way it works is the big show's the Sunday night. So basically they have a Friday night sort of reception where you get there and it's free drinks. And then they have the gala on the Saturday night. That's where they give out all the awards that aren't televised. That's where the Video of the Year award was. And then they have the big show on the Sunday. So when I went to the Junos, I was kind of like on a lark. I stayed with the Nut. Like I was basically kind of like, I'm here for a couple interviews, but anything that seems to happen, I'm down for it. And then the Nut literally got me into everything that weekend. So I ended up at the gala.
Going to the gala and the main show. Where'd you sit for the main show?
I was like, I would say like 8 rows back and to the left behind Shane and Mark. Which
Oh,
was
so you
just,
got good seats too.
Oh yeah, like I was able to watch you guys kind of do your thing. But hilariously, I was just by myself. So I'm just kind of having a beer, enjoying the show, crying at Dallas's tribute to Gord, like by myself. But it was a cool experience. But the reason I bring this up is because at the gala, I don't know if you guys remember this, but so I was literally sitting at the furthest back table. Anyone that followed us on Instagram would have saw my stories. And there was a guy being honored. His name is Gary Slate. And as part of this sort of like award being like this Lifetime Achievement Award for Gary Slate, he's supposed to have it presented by Kim Stockwood and Chaos. So, yeah. So get this. So the award starts going and they're like, okay, and welcome to the stage, Kim Stockwood and Chaos. Chaos isn't there, literally causing chaos. So Kim Stockwood gets up. She starts doing the honor for this guy, Gary Slate. I'm like, at this point, I'm going to duck out, and I haven't done any content, guys, because I need to do Snackable according to the Net.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step outside of the gala and mention, like, oh, this is where we're at. I'm going to take some footage. I'm going to get film of when Shane and Mark hopefully win.
Could I just cut you for 1 second? So you didn't hear what her speech was about?
I heard the start of it.
Oh, because it was all about being on time and how this guy was all about teaching chaos and the importance of being on time and being there for people. So Mark Myers and I were looking at each other and like mouth agape, like, holy shit, this is the most cringeworthy speech given what's happening right now.
Because Chaos was not there. He was late.
Yeah.
So I start to leave the area. And just as I'm walking out of like kind of the enclosed part, I see a dude like with a backpack and like a Leatherman jacket sort of thing, like, and a hood on. And he's walking at a brisk pace, like toward kind of the stage. And a security guy goes, yo, yo. And then the dude starts picking up the pace. And I'm like, what am I watching right now? And this is while like she's speaking on stage and I'm walking out. And I'm like, holy crap, and the guy has a backpack. Like, this could be something. So then the dude starts to really pick up the pace and starts running. Then security starts running, says something. 4 other security guards start chasing this dude with the hood on and the backpack and the coat. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, what is going on? Dude is going really fast now, and he's got 4 security guards running after him. Gets around the side of the stage. I don't see what's going on anymore. I'm like, that is nuts. I leave because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to be there for when it goes down. Sorry, guys.
Thanks for the text.
Yeah.
And then so I go out and I start filming my thing, and I'm like, wow, like I can't believe I just saw that. Security comes walking up like 3 minutes later, like, oh shit, man. It was Chaos trying to run to the stage to make his speech, and I guess they tackled him once they got backstage.
Yeah.
So I saw like the start of all this go down. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But then word started to spread throughout the gala that like, so what I didn't see was I guess Chaos got up on stage at some point.
Yeah, at the end of it, yeah.
What'd he say?
Exactly.
Security just beat the shit out of me. This is opening line. No, it was kind of weird. I didn't I thought he was just saying that this person helped him, and he made a joke about how this person made him a lot of money. Like, it wasn't the best or most like tactful speech in the world.
Yeah, and then Gary said, like, you still owe me that money. Yeah, it was.
I wanted it to be way more emotional and like apologetic for missing that, especially given the lead up to him not being on stage and then finally being on stage.
I also don't think he was trying to outrun security. I don't think he heard security. He was watching the speech and he was nervous he wasn't going to get up there to say his thing. So his speed was just correlating with his sort of like sense of panic about being like, oh shit, I've been late and they're already doing the award.
And the whole bit is about how I'm always late because that's literally what the speech opened with.
Is it not security's job if someone's running towards a stage, like covering their identity with a backpack
and not responding to security?
If they didn't tackle and it was some bomb, it'd be like, why wouldn't security stop this man?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that would be their argument for sure, which I also understand.
And it was like the gala is like everyone's in blazers and ties, and it's like a very dressed up thing. And Chaos was definitely in like a more of a sort of like a casual look.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And also like, and I got stopped every time I went anywhere. Like, hey, show us your thing. Show us your thing. Like that's like something that happens when you have to like flash your or whatever.
So then we get to the moment. I actually did film it, and you know, they announced that Grimes. We should let our listeners know Grimes ended up winning Video of the Year, and just like, damn it. And then I didn't see really. I saw you in the hallway afterward, like an hour later, and then later that night, I don't know if we ran into each other. Oh, we ended up at the Jesse Reyes thing. But I guess like to Max's point, like I guess in the moment where you're just kind of like, shit. Like, did it take the wind out of the night for you?
Not really. The thing was, I was planning this speech that was a little risque. And I had thought that the venue was going to be, I'll say 8 times smaller than it was. It was a huge place that was kind of scary to give a speech in. And it was kind of like people were drinking and eating. I wasn't sure if I did win, especially since I'm such a no-name person, if I'd have a captive audience for saying what I'm saying. So this sense of relief came over me that I knew I wouldn't have to do it. And then I just felt like I could relax for the rest of the night. Whereas it was a little tense leading up.
There is that, because for the words that we were up for, I was thinking, it's like, what am I going to say? Planning in your head, like, okay, what this is going to look like, how it's going to feel. And then when you don't win, there is part of you, the competitive part of you goes, oh man, I want to win. But there's another part of you that goes, okay, good.
Yeah, because I ran the good version of the speech in my alternate reality, and then I ran the reality if it goes very badly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, now I don't even have to walk that path at all. So.
That's the problem with getting nominated in the first place, is that, you set yourself up.
It's more of a burden.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rest of the weekend was great. I don't know, is there anything else to talk about that stood out? I mean, the show was great.
Yeah, the band was really happy with how it all went. Once again, the thing I've learned from doing anything in the band world is that the first time you do anything or you try something new, it's always overwhelming because there's just so many new factors that you have to take in and figure out how to communicate with your partners, whether it's the people in the band or the producers or whatever. And then the second time you do it, it becomes easier. And the third time, it's even easier. And that goes for like a live bit or, recording a song or anything, any creative endeavor. And because we've done the JUNOs 3 times now and we know the producing team, it was actually really fun this time because I knew kind of what questions to ask, what was available to us, what the kind of parameters of the performance could possibly be. And there's just more trust in the whole process.
Yeah. Oh, that looked. Oh, by the way, your performance looked awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've already said this a week ago to you, but on the pod, people are going to be like, "Oh God, they don't even tell him that his performance was good." It was awesome though. But for our listeners, if you haven't seen it, which I can't imagine you haven't, it was amazing.
Wait, was the fire hot?
Fire was very hot, actually. Yeah, we like the first time we ran in sound check, we were all just like stopped playing and just started filming it and got really hot.
Is this the most pyro you've ever had?
We've never had pyro before. But yeah, it was cool. We had to spend a little bit more. We went over budget, and it kind of comes out of the band's pocket to use the pyro. And it was like one of those questions, like, do we really need to do it? Is this like a good investment in the show?
You make it back through album sales though after the performance.
Did you see that fire? Let's get to Sam's.
But we were happy that we did because we were the only pyro of the night, and the song kind of calls for it. And also another thing which is interesting is that the video that we did together, there's fire in that, and that sort of helped dictate how we were going to do the live show. So it's like you make a decision a year ago, and that ends up, taking shape in another way, at the JUNOs.
Well, one last thing as I was leaving the JUNOs. So everyone had a great Sunday night, party, and then Monday is the inevitable flight home. So when I booked my flight home, I wanted to be on the Nuts flight because the Nut had the credit card out. So I knew that we could get I could get the ride to the airport and the ride back to my place with the Nut. What I didn't realize is you guys were also on our flight.
Yeah.
So all the Raquels on the flight. So it's time to get on the plane. And the minute I get on, I'm looking in first class, and who's there but Ed Robertson from the Bare Naked Ladies.
Right.
Oh, and to my left, there's Sarah Harmer. Oh, shit. Oh, there's the rest.
Sarah Harmer was in first class?
That's right. Not first class, but on the plane.
Okay.
Was Ed in first class?
Ed was.
Ed was, yeah.
With his whole family. But the rest of B&L was in the regular plane.
No.
I'm not kidding.
Jim Cregan.
Yeah, Jim Cregan.
Economy, man.
Ed flies first.
Damn straight. And
That's fucked.
Sarah Harmer. Sarah Harmer. All the Arkells guys. And I started thinking, shit, if this plane goes down, there's a lot of Canadian music on this plane.
Yeah.
My name will not make it into the newspaper at all. I'm like, do you think your name would make it in, or would it be Bare Naked Ladies go down in plane?
I think, it's funny that you had this thought because I think now our name would make it in the paper, but we have flown to Vancouver like years ago, maybe for the JUNOS in 2010 or something like that, some event, and Kevin Drew and other Broken Social Scene members were on the plane, and I was like, we're not going to be mentioned.
Honestly.
Yeah, so I was like, this would be huge news, and like my family would have to wait until the next day for my name to be published in the paper.
Yeah, it'd be in the spec for sure.
Yeah.
Was Stephen Page on the plane?
I didn't see Steve.
No, they have to take different planes.
Different flights, man.
Actually, I'll be honest. Every time I'm on a flight and someone more famous than me is on it, that's the first thing I think of.
Do you think, when you're on a plane, do you always think it's going to explode now? It's going to explode now.
Not explode, but just go down kind of thing.
And
I always think that.
that flight got real shaky at the end. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, we went around and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. So
And you guys, just in case people don't listen to the bonus episodes,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming like 80% of people don't listen to the
Yeah.
bonus one. You guys saw Bare Naked Ladies dress rehearsal.
we did, but we'll save this for the Ed Robertson episode.
Oh,
So we also got
gotcha.
a great interview with Ed Robertson, and we got some B&L stories for when we do that. So stay tuned for that. We get so many episodes.
Yeah,
in the
we
can,
got a
guys.
lot of a lot of good work there. Also, actually, maybe this is a good question for anybody who's listening, because sometimes I think it's like with these standalone episodes, there might be a lot of people who actually like that because they just want to hear the three of us talk at each other and don't even care about the guests. And so I'm curious to know if you're listening. Like, do you pick and choose episodes depending on the guest? Specifically, if you like the guest, you'll listen, and if you don't, you're not going to listen to the episode at all. Do you just listen to the top and bottom and not the interview? Do you only listen to the interview? What are your listening habits? Write us on Twitter or iTunes.
Yeah, do you want more bonus episodes where it's just the three of us yapping?
Yeah, that's kind of the question.
Because we could do those anytime. We don't even need a guest.
That would be the easiest thing ever.
But today we do have a guest.
We do.
You like that segue?
Good job.
Today we have Bob Rock, who is a like I said, a superstar Canadian producer. He's in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. He's produced Bon Jovi, Motley Crue,
Metallica,
Tragically Hip, like all these major artists throughout the years. He's worked with Aerosmith. He's worked with everybody. Bublé. So we talk about all that in this conversation. We did this in Vancouver. Basically, I got in at 7 in the morning. Max is like, at 11 a.m., meet me at Bob's studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So we meet in the parking lot. He had this, in this like kind of like very normal looking parking lot, there was just one ballin' car. And we were like, that has to be Bob Rock's
What was
car.
the license again?
Well, we can't say it because people could look it up.
No, I mean, what is the license?
If it's a custom plate, it doesn't
I
matter.
can't remember what
no,
it was.
it's
Webmaster Dan would remember. I can't remember. A lot went
Paradise City. No, just kidding.
on. That's Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, no, but he did the Guns N' Roses. Did
So-
he?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, so we first of all, guys, I'm sorry that you came away empty-handed at the JUNOs, but we all had a great time,
We had a great time.
and you guys still do great work.
Yeah.
I guess.
And you're going to continue doing it in the
hoping.
future. So all the best, and hopefully next year we're back there.
That's right.
With some more noms.
Yep.
Let's get to Bob Rock.
Well, we kind of wanted to start a bit at the start. You know, you've talked about growing up in the 60s and sort of loving the Beatles and the Stones. And I actually read that your mom brought you to see the Beatles in like a layover in Winnipeg on their way to New York.
That's right. I was in school.
As an engineer, I'm going to have you speak
Yeah.
here into the microphone.
This is incredible. Yeah,
Producing this.
her friend worked at Air Canada, and she got a phone call in the morning, and so she grabbed my sister and myself, and we got in the little Volkswagen and drove to the airport. And we stood out there, and they came off the plane and waved. I guess they were fueling, right?
Yeah.
And went back in. So I saw them. It was amazing.
So I was wondering if that's like something where you would sort of have begged to do, or if you just had like a super cool mom.
She knew we loved the Beatles and the Stones. So yeah, I had a super cool mom. There's no question.
What did your mom do?
She was just a housewife. And,
Musical,
not just
though?
a housewife.
I mean, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, no, and then she ended up working when we moved out west. But then she was just mom. It was pretty cool. It was really funny though. When the Beatles first played Ed Sullivan, she had one of those old Super 8s with the lights, like 4 floodlights on a wooden bar, right? So she filmed half of it with the lights on. So there was nothing on the TV. It was just this green screen. Right, because the lights were so bright.
Yeah, so
and then she turned it off. Thank God, and we had this video so we could see it back.
But she just shot Super 8. Like, was she a filmmaker?
No. We had a camera, right? Everybody had those little Super 8 cameras,
right? That's so funny that she did. Did she love music as well?
Yeah.
Musical? Did she play? Did she sing?
No.
Dad? Dad play or sing?
He was a drummer in the Navy.
Oh,
in the
okay.
Navy. So we had a set of drums in the house.
That's pretty sweet. Did you gravitate toward those? Bang away?
I used to bang on them.
Yeah. That's probably the funnest instrument when you're a young kid. It's like I think every kid starts out wanting to maybe hit the drums.
Yeah.
Yunu's actually a great 3-year-old drummer. And I'm friends with John Angus from the Trues.
Yeah.
His kid is 3 and they can jam Beatles songs and he can do all the Ringo fills.
That's awesome. So amazing.
Like you got to get John Angus to send you some footage. Like the kid literally, I think he just turned 4 today actually.
What's up with all the young kids and how talented?
I know.
It's a great question.
Like seriously, all these young kids that sing and you're going like, I don't get it. Like it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It must be the parents. Like, I guess we're in such an information culture and so many things are readily available, meaning you could go on YouTube and learn how to do something. And as a parent, if you want your child to be musical or they show an inclination, you can really sort of start molding that at a very young age and the kids can sponge it. They do, yeah.
People are into it.
Our guitarist, Mike, is really into these like Instagram guitar players who are just like, there's like this 17-year-old Australian girl who is like the best guitarist he's ever seen. And yeah, there's
just picking up some tricks.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one of the things I wanted to ask too is it's like the 60s music that you came up on is a lot different than, the bands that sort of helped establish your career. I guess like getting to a band like Metallica, when you first hear them, like what qualities about them made you sort of enjoy the music? Like what about them made you go, oh, I dig this?
The thing is the Metallica story is I bought the Justice album.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was doing a band called Black and Blue, the guitar player was friends with Lars, and they played this little hall. And I remember, Metallica. Yeah, I've heard of them. And then you saw the kids with the skateboards, with the T-shirts. So I thought I'd check it out. I bought Justice, and I went, okay, there's no bottom, but it's kind of cool. I get it. And I thought one was a great song because that's the one that was on MTV. And then the Cult warmed up for them on the Justice tour.
Right.
Okay, so I went to see the guys, and I stayed and watched Metallica, and I realized that Justice doesn't sound like the band. I mean, it's the band was big, powerful, had all this weight to it and stuff. So I just remember kind of going like, somebody should record them.
It blew you away in the room, and you go,
well, yeah. I just went, I get it.
Yeah.
I got it more live than the record.
Interesting.
And then that just faded away, and really we got Bruce got a call from management Q Prime and said that the guys is Bob interested in mixing the record, or the next Metallica record? And I said, nah, not into that. I said, but I'll produce it.
Interesting.
And
I think have a producer
that's kind of a power play. I like that.
Well, it was just I just wasn't interested, and I was just starting to do a lot more production, and I like mixing, but I just didn't want to just do the mixing, Anyway, and then they came up to Vancouver and they brought a cassette tape of the songs for the Black Album, and we had a meeting and we just talked about things. And as soon as I heard a couple of the songs, I got what they wanted to do, I just went, I can do this,
mm-hmm.
Well,
it's interesting. You talked about, you didn't want to just mix it, you wanted to produce it, and you really touch all aspects of music. You're a musician, you produce, you do all these things. And I read about you saying that, you know, being in your room as a kid and just playing guitar and being obsessed with music. Was there something specific where you went, you started seeing things big picture, like being like, I want to know how to make a record, not just play my guitar part?
Well, this, you know, like you were talking about the shredders.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was never a shredder. You know, I was always not the guy that was the best guitar player in the room. But that didn't really bother me. There's a couple of iconic moments. One was seeing Keith Richards on Ed Sullivan with his plexiglass guitar. That was like, that's me. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's me. And then all these songs that I heard, like Why, when I heard All Right Now by Free, you know, why do I love that so much more than the other bands? Why do I like the beginning of Honky Tonk Woman and the sound, and then Queen, and then, you know, even Good Vibrations? So right away I was interested in how do you do that? And kind of like I am a big Queen fan, but at the time when Queen 2 came out, I bought the album, and it's just, you know, sonically and everything, it was just, I just couldn't believe it. And at that point I realized no matter what, I just have to learn how to make records.
Do you think you're a naturally ambitious person? Like, meaning like, I'm either going to make a go of it with this guitar, or I'm going to find another way to make a career in music. Like, did you think about things in those terms?
Not really. I mean, I've just been blessed, you know, with whatever I've done. It's just led me to what I did. I mean, I think once I started engineering and mixing, just basically your work always gives you more work, you know, and it still does even today, you know. It's what you've done. People kind of like, you know, it's like you can't really audition for a band. You can't go say, I want to record you. They, you know, most musicians, most bands, they have an idea of what they like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they find the person who sounds like what they like. And so that's how I got my work. You know, even Metallica, I mean, there was a band I did, Electric Boys from Denmark and Sonic Temple, and then of course Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
And they wanted basically like, how the fuck did you do that? How did you make them sound so big?
You know, did you see the Jimmy Iovine Dr. Dre documentary? And he kind of talks about what, like, sort of the luck that happened. He's like, well, he happened to come in the studio on the Easter Sunday because they needed an errand boy, and that was the day John Lennon happened to be recording. And then from that, it led to Springsteen, and then to Patti Smith, and then from that, it led to Tom Petty, like the Patti Smith record. And so it's funny how it's like, just by virtue of just doing stuff and making your own momentum, it's like it will open doors that you couldn't have predicted or couldn't have like plotted out.
Yeah, it's at the time though, it's a little different from now. Back then, I remember when I recorded the first Loverboy album, Paul Dean was busting my balls about talking about basically this Pat Benatar album, or whatever. Yeah, I think it was that, and he was just kind of like, "This is what's got to sound like." Okay, you know, I'm still learning how to do this, right? You know, I just worked on punk bands, etc., and a couple rock bands. So anyway. So we did Loverboy's first album, and then I did his band called Shanghai in New York, and they were saying Anton Fig, who played with Letterman for years, the drummer, right? He was telling me that basically they had the first Loverboy album with Mike Chapman, etc., the same team that did Pat Benatar, and they were busting the engineers' balls to make it sound like Loverboy.
that's
in other words, there was this whole competition, and then you realize we're all just trying to make it sound as good as possible.
You just make your ears tingle. It's like, what's going to be the thing that, you know, when you hear the opening of a song that just makes you feel good?
You know, it's interesting. People, like whether you're a doctor or interviewing somebody or whatever line of profession, and you sort of when you kind of get your first gig or you do it, there's kind of a nervousness, like kind of fake it till you make it. It's like, can I pull this off? Well, I need to front like I can pull it off, and then you get in there and you do it, and you go, shit, I can pull this off.
Well, the thing, how I got my job actually. I was a construction worker in Victoria, and I knew I had to do something. And there was this course that was offered in Vancouver for 6 weeks. 6 weeks in a row by the American Recording Institute or whatever. Recording Institute of America, sorry. And so I came over for 6 weeks, and It was 1 day, 6 days total. And it was on Saturday and Sunday. There was 2 kind of like school days. Anyway, what happened is I went back to Victoria after the course, and I got a phone call. And it was the guy that taught, Roger Monk, an engineer. He says, "Do you want a job? Come over for this interview." And it was because he told me, it was because you were the one in the room that wasn't afraid to make a mistake. You were always the first when, who wants to try it? It was me, And I was okay with, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was okay with making a mistake. I was okay with making a fool of myself.
Wow.
And that's why I got the job.
Because you were comfortable with that.
You gotta be a little fearless about it.
And realistically, it's. I think really that's the thing. I'm okay with it. Like I'm not that concerned with the outcome. I'm more about the process and learning. So that's how I got my job, and that's been my whole life. Really.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump over to you worked on a Hip record.
Yeah.
And obviously Gord passed recently, and we were just kind of interesting. Like, what was the experience like working with him and his process?
Well, it was interesting. He came over to Hawaii. He flew to Hawaii, and we went for lunch. And literally, the Hip have always been there, right? To me, there was always this band. I thought they were great. I'm not sure I really got it like a lot of people did in Canada. Like I liked them. I really liked the lyrics, and I liked what Gord was doing. I thought the band sounded great, but I really didn't buy the records, to be quite honest. Okay, I just heard it on the radio all the time in Canada. He came over and we had a chat, and within 5 minutes, when you're in a room with a person, and you talk to them about what they do and how they make it, you're enamored with them. And then when I was in the room with the band, it's just, they have a sound, and you start recognizing what the greatness in them is. I never got past, basically, I guess really I never got past what I heard. But when I was there, I heard something else.
What's he like in terms of getting feedback with like lyrics or phrasing, like kind of when you're in the producer's chair? Like, was he open to the collaboration, or did he have a really clear idea of what he wanted when you worked with him?
He has a process. He's his stacks of rewrites. He'd bring out papers for a song that thick.
Yeah.
Which, much like a lot of great poets, it's constantly working on it to get it right, and that's his process. I mean, all we did was talk about things, and really,
music or philosophy. Or?
It was just a lot of conversation with Gord. We became very close friends.
So it was World Container, right?
Yeah, World Container, and then the next one.
Yeah.
The other one.
We Are the Same.
The same, yeah.
I was wondering, because I love In View might be my favorite Hip song, and I love a lot of their songs. But was there ever like a reference point, like, oh, let's make a song that kind of, because it felt very fresh, felt like of the time, and it was like the song they needed. Was there anything that you're like, oh, let's make it kind of feel like this? Or do you talk in those when you're in the studio, when you're working with an artist, like, oh, let's go for that Rolling Stone sound, or let's go for an Arcade Fire kind of thing? Like,
No, not really. I think with me, it's always what the band sounds like. Coming from an engineering point of view, sonics, it's really, I used to be when you first start, you over EQ, you over compress, you make all these mistakes. At that point in my career, when I really started becoming an engineer and a mixer, you realize that you do less of all that and you just record what's there. So to me, with the Hip, it was always tightening up the arrangements, the feels, and, making the most of what's there. Kind of, like I think it's the same with writing generally. Sometimes when you write and you, either a band or an artist, sometimes they can miss what's best in the song, which is basically, it's that outside perspective.
Journalists always say that, like writers, it's like all praise to my editor, who like, which in music context would be a producer, which is like for like highlighting or letting me know, no, this is the gold right here. This is like, we got to put this in the first paragraph.
Yeah. I've been blessed by the fact that I've been around so long. I've done so many records that you pick up on these things with the way people write. And, you know, there's bands, artists that really write amazing verses and bridges, but can never really solidify a chorus. And then there's people that it's all chorus and then they're lost in the verses, you know, or they don't think about how it moves as a record.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Totally.
So, and when I worked with, when Paul and I worked with Mick Ronson, I mean, he was a huge muse for me as a kid. I had a poster of his album Play Don't Worry on my wall. I mean, when he produced us, it was an incredible experience, but I learned a lot about songs and everything because of what he brought to Bowie, etc. Anyway, and he taught me this wonderful thing. Like Paul and I had written a song called Hastings Street, and it was very kind of Springsteen. It was very rock. And he said, "That's good, but let's just try this." And we went to a different place. And he said, and it ended up being the place that suited the song. It was his brilliance, but also, you know, we followed him.
A willingness to go on that journey.
Well, yeah. And a couple of times it didn't work, right?
Sure.
But when it did work, it was always great.
Yeah.
So that's really big. So I've always said it's like whatever you got to do to write a song, write the song, and then find its home. Because sometimes it is as it was written, or there's something better or different.
Do you, it's always interesting when we talk to other artists and they look back on work and how it's framed. Do you ever look back on the records that you've done and you go, I'd like a do-over there? Or are you like, it's in the past, it is what it is? And
You learn from it.
You know, every time I make a record, I learn something. I mean, like seriously, just there's this great thing that happened on Jann's new album.
Jann Arden for our listeners.
Yeah, Jann Arden.
New record produced by Bob Rock.
So I've done other albums with her, and I never wrote anything. But in this case, we had a conversation. Let's just try doing something. Anyway, make a long story short, I have this process. Is how I write songs is I make tracks. Okay, right from Eyes of a Stranger, everything I kind of just make it. That's how I write. So when we did the writing, I'd play her something. She either was inspired or not. So one of the last days is we needed another song, and I said, "Well, I've got this track, and it's kind of heavy and kind of rock." And I said, "I'll play it for you." So I played it for her, and she says, "Okay, just give me a mic." And she wrote down these lyrics, and she sat on the couch with a mic just like this, and sang it. Okay, she'd just written it, sang it, and we never got it better
than that recording.
Yeah. Never got it better. We tried, not even close. It was that point. So that was really, it was about a 15 minute time. And it was just brilliant on her part. And that's that whole thing of being so comfortable that she could do that. But she was brilliant just like that.
Mm.
I love that shit.
Yeah. Well, that's the magic.
That's why I still make records.
Yeah.
Is that, you know.
How much, I mean, do you focus on, I guess, personality management as a producer? Like, I mean, you seem like somebody that's very focused on the music and the creative process, but a lot of that sometimes is also managing a group of guys that maybe, or women that don't, you know, they're not seeing eye to eye with you or with each other. And then there's sort of conflict in the studio. You're going, shit, we're not getting any work done here. Are you able to sort of interject and sort of manage people? Or do you kind of step outside and be like, you people figure it out?
Every situation is different, you know, depending on the people. I mean, sometimes it can get pretty nasty. And, you know, you just you learn to kind of manage it and try and focus it more on the music. But there's, you know, like I said, it's everybody's different, you know, especially bands. Bands are a different thing. There's always kind of that alpha male in the band. Yeah. And then there's that second alpha male, you know, and there's always a great chemistry because of that kind of yeah, the tension. And when that disappears, it's not quite the same, you know. Well, with Metallica, they had this rule. It's like you could never talk about in the studio what somebody else was doing. So James could never talk about how Lars was drumming. It was just their rule. Okay? So I was in the in-between guy for everything. Like when there was a vocal problem or a lyric thing, that Lars or anybody or management didn't like, no one would tell them. I'd have to tell them.
They go to you with the notes.
Yeah.
Was that do you think that was a productive or a pragmatic thing to do in terms of process? Because would they have just been screaming at each other if that wasn't the case, or it was like would there have been a better path?
See, the thing with Metallica is that all people have the experience of whoever they've worked for. So when I came into there, when I recorded them, it was just like, well, I record bands all at the same time, and we've never done that. And I said, well, that's what I do. And I told them the reason is I said, I can hear everything at the same time, all the parts, whether we replace them or not. You can hear how the drums are working, the bass, everything, sonically and song-wise, arrangement-wise. So they said, okay, we're going to do that. They had never played in the studio together ever. Okay? So, yeah. Where was I going with that? I got lost in the memory.
No, them communicating with each other and like, finding like how to make it work.
Yeah. So basically, with them, everything opened up when they felt the new experience. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Even to the point of the solos on the Black Album. We went to do the solos. Kirk used to come in on the last couple of weeks and just do solos. It wasn't part of the rhythm or anything, right? And I said, well, you got to play with everybody else. I got to hear it. So he had to do solos every time we did a take, and we did a lot of takes on everything.
Wow.
So when he went to do solos, he came in and, he was kind of all over the place. And basically what we did is we made a copy of every solo he did on a cassette for every song, and that's where all the solos came from.
Ah, okay. So
because he wasn't thinking about it. So he got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but that's a very long, laborious process.
Sure.
But that's how it happened.
That's for them. That's what works for them.
And it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And what we did doesn't work for everybody. You know?
You've talked about how every situation is different, and you've worked with so many sort of massive sort of names. Is there a common thread through everyone you've worked with? Like, is there something you see, like obviously a Michael Bublé is very different than a David Lee Roth, or maybe they're not. I don't know. And you are a guy that is a common thread.
I think the thing is that initial time that you spend with them to me, makes a huge difference. I got to believe them. Like when I had the meeting with Motley Crue, I had my opinion of them before I met them, and when I met them and I talked to Nikki Sixx, when I discovered that those guys, especially Nikki and Tommy, were as had as much integrity in what they did as probably Jimmy Page and Robert Plant or Keith, and they believed what they did was the best that they could be, and I get caught up in that.
So you get swept away by like the energy and the excitement and the dedication to it all.
Well, yeah. They weren't fake. I can't do fake.
And Vince Neil was just kind of hanging out in a corner.
Well, no. Like I say, every band is different. I did a record without Vince, and it's not Motley.
Yep.
It's a great sounding album, some great riffs, but it's just not Motley.
Sure.
But getting to what you were saying is the common thread between everything that I've done is always the song. You can go from Michael Bublé to Metallica to Bon Jovi to whatever I've done, or Jann Arden. It's because it's the song, and that's what I like doing, making records. There's a difference. Yeah. I never wanted to be the guy that just did it like Metallica. That's why I didn't do any other metal bands like that. I don't want to go down from what I did, right?
Interesting.
Well, I mean that in the way that why would I want to do what I've just done? So to me, it doesn't get any better than Metallica.
Right. Like there's nowhere to go but down. So it's like.
Well, but that's not giving. You get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying. You're being diplomatic, but I see what you're saying. It's like once you've done it, you don't want to repeat yourself, or I guess repeat that process with another band.
Yeah.
In that genre.
Yeah, it's like you made the best sort of metal record you could. Now let's try to make the best, singer-songwriter record or best rock and roll record.
Yeah, with Bublé, the basic premise is it's about the song, it's about making a record, and it just happens to be a full orchestra rather than Hetfield on guitar.
Yeah,
it's really the same thing in my head, anyway.
Yeah.
So, Michael was kind of like, "What?" And then we talked. And then we talked about the song, and I said, you know, you need a middle eight. It's got to go somewhere. Changed the arrangement. Got musicians in the studio, and we did. First one was My Everything. You're My Everything.
Mm.
That's the first one we did. The only song I did on that record.
Right.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about sort of like musicians' dysfunction, sort of your role in playing it. Who's the most functional band or artist you've ever worked with? Where you went, wow, that's a really healthy outlook. I love making records with that person. Or
these guys seem really well adjusted.
Well, I mean, really, all of them. In the end, the thing is it's either easy or it's hard. But at the end, it's always the end product. The end thing that you're trying to make. And so when you leave, regardless of what anybody says in the press after the album, the day we're finished, everybody's going, "This is the best we can fucking be." All of us.
I more just want to know that, like, what band seem to be healthy communicators. I know every band has their problems. Every single band is a complicated thing. But is there like a particular band that, like, oh, those guys like had a way of talking to each other that was more that just seemed, as Mike said, like sort of more healthy than other situations? Or did you only work with just fucking drug-fueled ragers?
Well, you see, that's not true because when I did Motley, they were sober.
Oh, okay.
Right.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting.
They slipped a couple of times. But they were sober. So they were in, you know, we got to make a great record. Yeah. Basically, there was some great bands that like Loverboy, but Bon Jovi, the Slippery Wet record, they were a gang.
Okay.
Okay. They had the songs. They came to the studio. They loved the Loverboy stuff that Bruce and I had done. We set them up, and basically in 2 weeks, we had everything cut. One guitar track, you know, keyboards on the right, guitar here, backgrounds, boom, 6 weeks, the whole record.
Yeah. And they were just in the pocket.
In the pocket, that was just like so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bob. We
awesome.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it all went downhill after that.
I was just going to ask. Welcome to everybody's favorite part of the show, the dessert. We are here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Shane, what do you got for us?
This is a little outdated, I guess, because I had planned on talking about this last episode, but I was ambushed by the nut.
Oh, yeah. Sorry again.
No, it's fine. I did get some people messaging me how weird that one was, though.
Really? It was a weird one.
Just the nut.
But it was funny. Yeah, well, the nut was saying whoever did that ending, because, you know, we added a little music and tried to make it a little theatrical with his end speech he gave.
Which is great.
And the note was like, whatever creative, in air quotes, did that ending needs to be fired. And I became a little self-conscious about the ending because I was the creative who edited that. But people were like, oh, that was the weirdest episode ever. But I love the ending. It was completely salvaged by the end, and I thought it was funny. And I got like 5 messages like that. But anyway, what I was going to talk about last week was the single, The Nutcracker.
Oh, yeah.
Because although we did advertise it on our social media, I'm assuming a lot of people don't follow us on social media. Maybe they only listen to the podcast and they want to know how to download the song or to get the song.
Yeah.
The easiest way to do it is to download the iTunes store on your iPhone. It's different than Apple Music. There's a lot of confusion with this. And then once you download iTunes store, in the search, just type in The Nutcracker, and you have to pay 99 cents, and then you get the song. This is if you want it right away, because it eventually will be on Apple Music.
And you can just stream it.
And then you can just stream it normally. This is for like people who just are dying to have the song now, which you laugh. But again, people have been sending me videos of them enjoying the song.
Oh.
And this, a group of girls had a party and they were playing The Nutcracker. And it was pretty cool to see that. And then another woman, was playing it for her dog and sent me a video of that, and the dog's kind of like chilling out listening to it. So
This thing's becoming a sensation.
yeah, and originally, a little backstory, Max had said he didn't want to be a part of the track. But I had suspected the rationale was Max didn't want to come in the studio to record his part. So what we did was we used Max's vocals from when we did it live on the pod.
Yeah.
So we stole them from that recording.
You use the raw pod audio.
And then
It's kind of like when an artist dies, like John Lennon with the Beatles and Free as a Bird.
so the producer who did the track, his name's Steve Sarkany, he was like, yo, is Max going to be cool with this? And I go, well, he did say no. But what I'm going to do is just send Max the track and say, hey, Max, you're getting like this exclusive look at this version. Tell me what you think. I need like advice. And you were like, just add auto-tune to my voice and it'll be cool.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So you're on this entire track in the chorus.
I know.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I like supporting a good cause.
With the socks, like we talked about at the beginning.
Right?
Yeah.
I like.
Is the good cause lupus or slamming the nut?
Both, actually. I think the song's really good. I think I like being supportive of my friends. The only thing I'll say is that if anybody were to ever go, Max from the Arkells ever had a solo record, the only thing they'd find is this one song.
Right.
Which I don't really care.
Like
but
when they search.
yeah, when they search, it's like, hey, I wonder if Max Sherman ever did anything in any solo record. The only thing they'll find is this song, which is a very bizarre rap song, and the chorus is "No one can fuck you like I do," and then like it doesn't sound like me, but then like you might hear something that vaguely sounds like me. Well, so people would just be kind of confused. Like, and there was a part of me that's like, I wonder if the guys in the band have. This has come across their radar and they're ashamed to be associated. But.
Well, there is one funny part in the song where Drew goes, I'm going to bust that pussy open. And then you go, like I do. But do you think, like, you know how you got the charitable socks and it was kind of a shit product, but you're like, oh, it's for a good cause. Would you say it's in that world more so? Or do you actually think it's a banger of a song? Or is there some middle ground there?
Yeah, it's in its own world altogether because it's a Lonely Island-esque product. So you wouldn't put it in the company of like the Beatles who are trying to write like a very serious pop song. But is it like funny? Yes. Is it hooky? Yes. Is it well produced? Yes. So there you go.
Well, one of Dan Hamilton's girlfriends, don't know if we can say that, but messaged him and said, oh, this is a Lonely Island track.
Yeah.
Which I considered like the highest compliment, that it actually fooled her.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Well, she's young. So.
Yeah. But this could be a gateway for a lot of people to get into the Arkells.
That's probably what will happen.
Well, the third voice in this track's pretty good. I wonder if he's done any other work.
Side note, do you guys know Pet Shop Boys from the 80s?
Of course. Go West.
End, what?
Go West.
Yeah, that song, West End Girls.
Yeah.
I showed Lauren that song the other day, and she said it sounds a lot like Flight of the Conchords. And it's exactly the same as Flight.
Wow.
Flight of the Conchords do a great Pet Shop Boys impression.
So check out those two tracks.
Yeah.
But I'm glad off the top, because this will make more sense now that you allowed me to mention that we will not be directing your next music video.
Not the next one.
So I wasn't down in the dumps, but I was just like, oh, shucks, whatever.
Yeah.
Then I get contacted by Drew Grange, who is the main vocalist in this rap battle song we did, the Nutcracker.
And it turns out he's directing Max's next music video.
He's the director. But once he's done directing that, he said that we could fly down to the Bahamas.
Whoa.
And maybe direct his next video.
Whoa.
Which I wouldn't have been able to do had the Arkells thing happened.
What happens in life, man. Other doors open.
And then Drew and his manager were talking about possibly doing a music video for the Nutcracker and actually getting a budget.
For the Nutcracker.
Wow.
For the Nutcracker.
I don't know if I'm going to be in that video.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the Bahamas, Max.
I figure we would record. This one won't be filmed in the Bahamas, but I figure we would just record a little segment of you at the pod. You know, you wouldn't have to get out of your comfort zone. Think about it. We'll record it. We'll edit it. Then you can tell us whether you want it in. Yeah. And there's also maybe a live performance in the works with me and Drew.
Wow.
Nice.
So anyway, that is what I'll say about the Drew thing. That's what's going on.
What a
there.
tease for the listeners.
And then what I was going to talk about this week, I actually been getting lots of people messaging me about Nathan Fielder.
Yeah.
And I guess a little tease for an episode coming up. We actually interviewed Nathan Fielder's best friend, one of his best friends.
That's right.
Which was mentioned on a previous podcast. And it got a little bit weird. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
I think that's best as a tease because you guys will be listening to this
Okay.
episode, and the next episode will be a comedy episode where we talk to the guys from Gale Pyle, Filth City, and also Chris Locke, who is best friends with Nathan, like Shane said, and you will hear how all that goes, and we'll set it up. But there's
Yeah,
going to be a very
yeah.
special comedy episode coming up after this one. So,
Another tease. It was the most uncomfortable I've ever been at a podcast before.
we'll set it up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. So people have been messaging me information, little tidbit, clues. And recently I got someone who, I don't know if I can say their name, but they gave me Nathan Fielder's direct manager's phone number and name
Oh.
and the phone number. So had this not been at an ungodly time in the morning, I would be calling this person for the pod. But since it's only 6 a.m. in LA right now, I don't want to call this. But the next thing you're going to hear on this dessert will be me calling the
Is
manager.
this going to be a cold call?
Yeah,
This person doesn't know you're calling.
no,
You're just going to call.
just calling. And it's
Ooh,
direct
I like
line.
this.
I'm assuming they will answer.
Okay.
Manager's got to pick up the phone. They say.
Maybe that-
Nathan's manager speaking.
Because only a certain amount of people will have this number, right? So they're not going to assume it's going to be some weirdo from a Canadian podcast.
That's how they answer. Is this a weirdo from a Canadian podcast?
Wait a second. Yeah.
Shane?
Okay, awesome. That's man. So we're gonna get to hear that live.
Loving it.
And however it pans out, that's how we'll end it.
Yeah, great.
Okay, here goes nothing, as I always say. It's weird because there's no answering machine. Almost suggests that they're on the other line or something. A bust. Going to try next time. Anyway, back to the show. So can we just do a fake laugh in case it ends really funny?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Oh jeez.
Shoot another couple other reactions. Like, ooh.
Yeah. Okay. In case it goes bad. 1, 3, 2, 1. Yikes. Boy, that did not go as planned. Needless to say. Cue the music.
That's it. That's all. That's our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Bob Rock.
Mike on Much podcast can be found on Instagram and Twitter at Mike on Much. Please leave a comment in the ratings for iTunes. Also, we asked you a question earlier in the pod. Let us know what kind of episodes you like the most. Huge thank you to Tara Paquette and Jenna Gregory for putting together the artwork. Webmaster Dan, who used some of his vacation time in Vancouver to be a Webmaster Dan. He was amazing. And he actually helped run the Arkells Twitter on Sunday night, which was a huge help.
We should have said that off the top.
Help. I know. So thank you, Dan. Mike McShane for sending us to Vancouver.
The man.
Justin Stockwood.
Stockman.
We said Kim Stockwood.
He won't find that funny. Justin Stockman.
And all you people.
Thanks for listening. The Mike and Much podcast is produced by Max Kermit. I'm your host, Mike Vierman. See you next week if we don't die on the weekend.